morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome to Honest Football Talk, where I, Thomas Llewellyn, give you guys my honest take on everything going on in the NFL world today. And I thought, what better way to start this episode off than to talk about what happened over the 4th of July weekend? I know, personally for me, had a great time hanging out with some friends and family. We have ourselves a personal pool that we get to hang out by, relax, had some grilling, of course, going on outside. My dad loves using the grill, made us some great ribs and steak, and, just had a really great time hanging out with the friends and family and catching up on things. And during the holidays, especially, or during the summer, during the summer, it's kind of difficult to get a lot of NFL news. It's kind of a really quiet time for the NFL because it's the off season, not a lot going on, no games being played, and a lot of players are getting this time to relax themselves. So there's not a lot of crazy news going on, so kind of hard to keep up on. So I apologize for taking last week off, but at the same time, it was more like there wasn't a lot of news going on, so it's kind of hard to make these episodes when there's not a lot of news going on. But now that an extra week has been added, I figured there has been some news going on in the NFL that I think it's important to talk about, especially this first story that I really want to get into. It's very unfortunate news, but over the weekend, on Saturday, NFL rookie Kyrie Jackson and two of his former teammates were killed in a car crash that happened in the state of Maryland. Happened very early in the morning that Saturday, I believe. Very, very tragic news to hear. This NFL rookie Kyrie Jackson was a rookie for the Minnesota Vikings, was picked in the 4th round this past April. Very, very tragic news to hear. Played his college career at University of Oregon. Also attended Wise High School in Upper Marlboro, if that's how you pronounce it. Apologize. Before going on to play Division I college football. Like I said, he finished his college career at the University of Oregon, drafted in the 4th round by the Minnesota Vikings in April. Very promising, it looked like, career coming out of college. Very, very sad to see, a career like that end so tragically and so short. I pray for the family, pray for everybody, that was involved in that accident. That can't be easy to deal with, obviously. I can't imagine. Tragic news, hate having to cover things like that, but, that is unfortunately life, and things like that happen, and, we got to take life one day at a time, right? So, prayers for that family. Hope they're able to recover as much as possible. And, going on from there, sad news, but we'll try to get into some more, I'd say, uplifting news in a way. With this next story that I wanted to cover is, it's not really a big story, but it's kind of a rumor going on right now. NFL rumors have Tua Tagovailoa in active talks right now with the Miami Dolphins about contract extension. I thought this was a very interesting story. Jeff Darlington from Bleacher Report, this information comes from BleacherReport.com. Jeff Darlington of ESPN reported on SportsCenter that Miami and Tua Tagovailoa have not yet come to terms on a new deal. The two sides have remained in constant contact since June. Jeff Darlington's quote says, "Well, I can't say that there is anything imminent in terms of a deal as we inch closer to training camp. I can at least tell you that there have been active negotiations since then," Darlington said. "They continue to try to get this done in a very amicable approach. It does not appear that this is going sideways by any means." So, basically saying that deal is still in talks. Nothing crazy is going on in terms of wanting to cut the deal or wanting to or Tua is asking for too much money or something, and things aren't going too crazy between the two sides. It looks like things are leading to an actual contract extension. Probably just getting the language right. So I think that's very very good for Miami Dolphins. Definitely a plus for them. I think Tua Tagovailoa, if I can say his name correctly, is definitely the quarterback of the future for the Miami Dolphins. Looking at some of his stats so far, he has a 32-19 overall record and has 12,639 passing yards and 81 touchdowns in his 4 seasons so far. Wild numbers, honestly, in my opinion. He threw for 4,624 yards just last season and 29 touchdowns with 14 interceptions. Led them to 11-6 record, one of their best records lately. And I mean, they're just in the best situation right now offensively with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua. They're all just killing it so far on the offensive side of the ball. I definitely say that Miami definitely needs to make a good deal with Tua, make sure that this offense continues to click like that. And heck, the sky's the limit for Miami. I see them being the division leaders even this year. Say that's a hot take, but I personally feel Miami is the better team out of the 4 teams there. The Bills have kind of digressed with losing to Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, where Miami is kind of... I know that they've lost a lot of pieces on defense as well, but their offense is still just as impressive, explosive. So, and I feel like NFL is won with offense more than it is defense these days, especially the way the rules are. So I feel like Miami's got the edge. We'll see, especially with the Jets. Jets are coming up too, especially now that Aaron Rodgers is healthy. Curious to see how that goes. But going on from there, let's get to our third story. Now, this one, of course, also not very uplifting, but I think it's important to cover because this shows big implications for the Steelers in particular. This story: NFL suspends Steelers cornerback Cameron Sutton 8 games for violating personal conduct policy. Now, if anyone's been following this story, it's been kind of a crazy story. I don't know how, I don't know Cameron Sutton personally, obviously, so I don't know how, detailed this story goes, but just from what's been reported, some crazy situations for sure. What Cameron was charged with was of domestic violence and evading the police. So very, very interesting charges. The domestic violence stemmed from apparently with a romantic partner in which he was apparently strangling them. So this is a very, very serious situation. Very strange how, personally to me, very strange how the NFL determines these suspensions policies, especially with other players in the league that do some very questionable acts. Only 8 games seems light in my opinion, especially when you got players getting suspended for a whole year due to gambling. Like, I don't know. There's not a lot of consistency or I would say fairness in the way that they do these policies, but that is the ruling. Cameron Sutton is out for 8 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's about half the season. He's a very good cornerback. He was just with the Lions before they cut him over this ordeal. So it begs the question: how's he going to return from this? He was good, but is all this drama going to impact his play? Is it going to impact his offseason workouts? Time will tell. But yeah, that's all the big stories that I have in terms of NFL news. Apologize for some of the negative ones. Hopefully, as the season actually starts ticking around the corner, we're going to get into some positive news and not talk about so much negative stuff going on. Because I tell you, man, it's not fun covering some of these negative stories. But going on from there, let's get into something definitely a lot more positive. We're going to get into my top 5s. Like I did last episode, we did my top 5 quarterbacks and running backs. For this episode, we're going to do my top 5 tight ends and my top 5 wide receivers heading into 2024. To start my personal rankings, we're going to go ahead and go into my top 5 tight ends going into 2024. And number 5 on my list is actually Trey McBride out of the Arizona Cardinals. Trey McBride, according to Pro Football Focus, was ranked number 6 out of all tight ends in 2023 with a 76.3 rating. When looking at his overall statistics for the year, he had 105 targets, 81 receptions, 825 yards, and 3 touchdowns. McBride led the Cardinals with his 81 catches for 825 yards and also recorded 19 games of 15-plus yards. He led all tight ends in yards per route run and notched 383 yards off play-action passes. That's also ranked first, according to Pro Football Focus. Reading these stats just goes to show me that Trey McBride is on the rise here. He was Kyler Murray's number 1 target when Kyler finally came back last year. They didn't really have a lot outside of him. Hollywood Brown wasn't utilized as much for whatever reasons. I was very confused about that. But now that they have Marvin Harrison Jr., might be utilizing the wide receivers a little bit more this year, but I still see Trey McBride having a crazy, crazy year. He's going to be finishing definitely in the top 5, in my opinion, going into 2024. And then my number 4 tight end is actually Mark Andrews. Now, Mark Andrews, he missed some time, of course, last year. According to Pro Football Focus, he was ranked number 3 out of all tight ends with a 78.8 rating. And with his full year stats, keep this in mind, he didn't play much because his injuries. But he had 62 targets, 47 receptions for 559 yards and 6 touchdowns. Still had all that, even with limited play. Andrews missed the final 6 games of the regular season and still finished among the top 3 Ravens in targets. Crazy. Andrews generated the second highest passer rating when targeted, 135.1 among tight ends in 2023. And he's only trailing his teammate, Isaiah Likely, which is kind of crazy. But, yeah. pretty awesome stats for him. He's one of course, Lamar Jackson's top targets, favorite target, always has been with Mark Andrews. They've always been liking to target the tight ends. They've never been a big like wide receiver focused team. So I see with Mark Andrews having a healthy season, he's going to obviously finish in the top 5. That's why I got him as my number 4 tight end heading into the season. And yeah, going on from there, we're going to go into my number 3 tight end, and that would be George Kittle. So yeah, we got George Kittle as my number 3, and according to Pro Football Focus, he was ranked number 1. Few tight ends were able to stretch the field like George Kittle in 2023. He recorded 29 games of 15-plus yards, which was tied for first, and led all tight ends in deep receiving yards, 232. Kittle averaged 9.9 depth yards per target, tallied 7.3 yards after the catch per reception, and gained 279 yards after contact. Great stats here to read off. His total stats for the year, if you're curious, he had 101 targets, 73 receptions for 1,132 yards and 7 touchdowns. So great stats. I see George Kittle basically repeating that. San Francisco is still an amazing team, still have basically all their weapons. They're basically just reloading this year. They went to the Super Bowl last year. Got a feeling it could be a repeat for him. They might actually win it this year. We'll see. They got the pieces. I think George Kittle's going to have another big year, and that's why he's my number 3 tight end going into 2024. Now, number 2 might surprise some people, because for me, my number 2 tight end is Sam Laporta out of Detroit. That's right. Sam Laporta, he is ranked number 5 according to Pro Football Focus from last year. He had a 77 rating according to Pro Football Focus, and they say that Sam Laporta put the league on notice with his rookie season. He was the second most targeted tight end in 2023, and only one to record 10 or more touchdown catches. 9 of his touchdowns came from the red zone, while 6 came from play action passes. Which was first. So goes to show he's the only tight end. Yep, the only one to record 10 or more touchdowns. Goes to show probably might repeat that this year. I think that. I think he's just going to get better and better. That was his rookie year, and he had phenomenal stats. Looking at his overall stats, Sam Laporta had 144 targets, 107 receptions for 1,065 yards and 11 touchdowns. So, big part of what the Lions want to do in the future. They love targeting the big tight ends in the red zone. So I got a feeling Sam Laporta is going to have exceptional numbers again when it comes to touchdowns next year. And yeah, I think he's still going to be a big part of that Detroit Lions offense, and probably become much more of a leader going into that locker room next year. So have high hopes for him. That's why he's my number 2 overall tight end going into 2024. And yeah, let's go ahead and finish it off. My final top 5 personal tight end going into 2024. Might be able to guess it from what's left. We got Travis Kelce, number 1. That's right, Travis Kelce. I know he's a little older from the Kansas City Chiefs. Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the number 2 tight end with an 82.6. And his total stats, we'll go ahead and read them off here. For 2023, he had 155 targets with 125 receptions for 1,339 yards and 8 touchdowns. Kelce showed that he still had plenty of juice in his age 34 season. Not only was he the Chiefs' leading receiver in 2023, but he also led all tight ends in targets, catches, yards, and first downs. Kelce tied George Kittle in explosive gains, 29, forced 20 missed tackles, and was the NFL's most targeted tight end in the red zone with 26 targets. He now has 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons and 6 consecutive seasons with over 100 catches. Pretty wild for Travis Kelce. I don't see why that wouldn't continue next year, right? So, going to keep him at number 1. Chiefs have now Hollywood Brown as a big deep threat. They're basically getting their Tyreek Hill back. I personally think Hollywood Brown, he's not as good obviously as Tyreek Hill, but he brings that same type of mentality to the team of being the deep threat and having, corners and safeties cover a lot more farther off the line of scrimmage, just because they got to worry about that deep threat. And I think that's going to affect Travis Kelce's play next year. I think it's going to end up making him targeted just as much, if not more, and end up putting up a lot of big numbers again. So we'll see if Kansas City can do the three-peat, and if they're going to do it, I expect it to be on the back of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and carrying the team to another Super Bowl. So yeah, that's my top 5 tight ends going into 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Let me know what you guys think, what you guys' thoughts on that. You guys counter that, have any, I think that's, there's a lot of good young tight ends going into the league as well. Coming into this year, so I'm curious to see how things pan out. It's always been pretty much dominated by Travis Kelce. It'd be great to see Sam Laporta kind of take that next step and be the leader in all tight ends. So we'll see how that goes. Now for the fun list, my personal top 5 wide receivers going into 2024. Now this is difficult because I didn't use as much Pro Football Focus as I normally do with these. Mostly because Pro Football Focus didn't have some of my wide receivers ranked, so I felt it would be better to use StatMuse. StatMuse.com, great website to go to find some NFL stats to give you everything based on each individual player and what they've accomplished in the league. Really, really appreciate their website and what they're able to provide to a user, so be sure to check out StatMuse.com. Anyways, going on from there, we'll go ahead and get into my top 5, and starting my top 5, I think we'll do the same, even though I think it's going to be more interesting hearing the ones at the bottom of my list than at the top, because I think it's kind of a no-brainer for some of the top players. But starting at number 5, not a lot of people have this guy on their list, and because he was hurt a good bit of last year, so I don't think, Pro Football Focus had them on there mostly because of that reason. But number 5 going into 2024 for wide receivers, personally for me, is Cooper Kupp out of, that's right, the Los Angeles Rams. That's right. I personally think that Cooper Kupp is a top 5 wide receiver. People might think not so much anymore because of his hurt year, but the dude, I mean, his Super Bowl year just a few years ago was just purely insane, and I mean, the dude's still one of the best. I know Puka Nacua is becoming a big threat for them, but I just think that's going to end up helping Cooper Kupp get open more. And if the dude's healthy, he's going to put up some crazy numbers, and he's going to remind the league why, he was, if not the best receiver for a period of time in the NFL. I think he's going to get right back up there this year. So that's why I got him as my number 5. Looking at his stats, he had 59 catches for 737 yards and scored 5 touchdowns. But see, he only played in 12 games, so that has to be in mind too. We got to make sure that he's able to get to that lucky number 17. We got to get to 17 games, and I think Cooper will be right up there in the top 5. Alrighty. Going from there, we go to number 4. Number 4 might be a little bit of a controversy as well, as I have Keenan Allen going into 2024 as the number 4 wide receiver. You might be thinking, whoa, he's been traded to the Chicago Bears. They got a brand new quarterback. They already had a top wide receiver. I think all of that is going to end up benefiting Keenan Allen. Now, Keenan Allen used to have Justin Herbert throwing to him. Obviously, that was a lot better for him last year. And when looking at his stats from last year, Keenan Allen had 108 catches for 1,243 yards and scored 7 touchdowns in 13 games played. It's also very important to mention, Keenan Allen has always been one of the best, I think, route runners in the NFL. A lot of pros also agree with that sentiment, that he's one of the best route runners out there. Of course, health is a big issue for him. He's got to stay healthy for all 17 games. That's been a big problem for him all throughout his career. He's ran into some injury bugs that have kept him out for at least a few games, it seems like. But yeah, I'm hoping that if Keenan Allen, of course, can stay healthy, learn this new system, he's going to be the feature wide receiver. He's going to be targeting more than DJ Moore. I think he's much better than DJ Moore. So personally for me, Keenan Allen's going to go all the way. But we'll see. We'll see if he finishes in the top 5. As long as he stays healthy, I personally think he is. For 2024, he's going to finish very, very high up there. Alrighty. Going from there, we'll go to my number 3 wide receiver going into 2024. And that would be, oh boy, big surprise. It's going to be a Philadelphia Eagle and A.J. Brown. Now, I don't think this is too big of a shock to people as well, because A.J. Brown last year was argued as one of the best, if not the best last year for a period of time. He was in battle with Tyreek Hill for some much, much better stats. But, of course, towards the end of the season, if you guys pay attention to the Eagles, they kind of fell apart. Last, 6 games of the season, just completely, we fell completely apart. It was very unfortunate for the Philadelphia Eagles. But, still, A.J. Brown, even with us falling apart, was still leading the league in a lot of stats with just his ability to, play wide receiver. If you watch A.J. Brown on the field, the dude does some crazy, crazy things. He's not only a big body, but he's fast. He can route run so well. There's that great clip of him against the Steelers of catching it over the 2 defenders and pointing them out, like, oh, I caught it over you, and I caught it over you. Like, it just goes to show how much of a beast A.J. Brown is and how he's just able to just bully defenders and be able to catch balls that probably aren't catchable by any other receiver just because of his physical strength. And it's awesome watching him play. So happy the Eagles were able to get him. Thank you, Tennessee. Going from there, though, let's look at his stats from last year. So A.J. Brown, he did play all 17 games, and he had 106 catches for 1,456 yards and scored 7 touchdowns. So great stats, personally. I think that's amazing. Big stat in there is that he played all 17 games. Hoping he can continue that up. He's got to be able to stay healthy to finish in the top 5, I think, next year, because there's a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of competition for the top 5 spots, and I think A.J. Brown finishes up there. Now, I think one of the detriments is still positive for the Eagles is that they got Devontae Smith. He could arguably be in the top 5 as well if Jalen Hurts decided to target him a lot more than A.J. Brown for whatever reason. I just feel he's got very similar in terms of like skill set, in terms of route running and catching ability. Devontae Smith is very, very close to overtaking A.J. Brown as the number 1. I think it's possible. So. With all that said, I still think A.J. Brown's going to finish, of course, on top. He's going to finish as the number 1 receiver for the Eagles and might even finish in the top 5, depending on how well everything clicks in the new Philadelphia offense. We got a brand new offensive coordinator. It's going to be a whole different system. Going to be using a lot more motions and things of that nature. At least I hope so. Fingers crossed, because the Eagles have always been known for having much more like stagnant offense that isn't very creative, but they still get the job done because of all the talent. So I'm hoping that with a little bit more creativity in the playbook, we're going to see a lot more big plays break out for hopefully A.J. Brown and other players as well for the Eagles. But that's my final determination. A.J. Brown, number 3 on my top 5. We'll see how it goes for 2024. Alrighty. And then going into our number 2 wide receiver. Going into 2024, for me, I got to say it's Justin Jefferson. And everyone's going to be like, what? Number 2? Why is he number 1? Well, big reason why he's not number 1 is health. He wasn't healthy for part of the season last year. I think that raises some sort of caution for him. He's still, when you watch Justin Jefferson play, though, the dude is a beast. I mean, you can tell the way everyone talks about him in the media, as well as like just watching him play on the field. The dude is on another level. It still bothers me to this day that the Philadelphia Eagles did not draft him. It's like, could have had him. But at the same time, very, very happy with the way the Eagles wide receiver room has turned out since that moment. But good to see Justin Jefferson succeeding so well with the Vikings. And of course, he's not going to have Kirk Cousins passing him. That's another thing that makes me wary of putting him so high on my list. He's got a brand new quarterback. I think he's going to have Sam Darnold most of the year. I don't know if JJ's going to overtake. They did just draft JJ McCarthy, out of Michigan. And I don't know if he's going to. I think eventually he'll end up starting this year, and I don't know how much it's going to impact Justin Jefferson's stats, but Justin Jefferson is a difference maker on the field. He's going to put up points. He's going to put up statistics that are wild no matter what, no matter who's his quarterback. He's that type of receiver. But the reason why he's number 2 is because of basically everything around him and a little bit of his injury history. Like he's going into a much more difficult situation than who I got at number 1. So, going from Justin Jefferson, you might be able to tell who I have at number 1. Kind of mentioned him earlier, because I think this person, by far the best. I mean, I think just having him on your team just makes your team just go from here to here. And that is my number 1 being Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins. Might be a surprise to you, might not. But let's read his stats from last year. Tyreek Hill played in 16 games, and he had 119 catches for 1,799 yards and 13 touchdowns. Such wild stats, but yeah, almost had 2,000 yards receiving. And I think that Tyreek Hill could be the person to break that record next year and get 2,000 yards receiving, just because, one, same thing with the Eagles. Got a great secondary wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. Could easily be in the top 5 as well, depending on if 201 to start targeting Jalen Waddle more. Feel the exact same way with that situation as I do with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So I feel like, and the big thing with Tyreek Hill is his speed. Like, he's just a speed demon. The dude is amazing. He can zoom all over the field, and it's just astounding to watch this dude play, and people just missing tackles right and left. It's wild to see how quick he can just get out of like breaks and things of that nature. So much quicker than any other receiver I can see on the field, and it's a special talent. And that's why I got him at number 1. I think the dude is such a game changer, just on not just with the team, just like on the whole NFL world per se. Like when teams are game planning against Tyreek Hill or game planning against the Miami Dolphins, they got to keep Tyreek Hill at the forefront of their mind. They got to think of what's the best defensive strategy we can go about stopping this guy. It's based around Tyreek Hill. Like it's not just based around the Miami Dolphins and what Tua can do and what Jalen Waddle can do. Like even though they got to keep those in thought, it's mainly Tyreek Hill because this guy is such like he can score any play. Like that's what makes it so crazy with Tyreek Hill. I believe any play, whether it's first, second, third, fourth down on the field for the Miami Dolphins, Tyreek Hill can score a touchdown. It can happen any moment. So that mindset, at least in my head, that's the main reason why I have him at number one and why I think he could be the top receiver going into 2024. So yeah, if you guys think any differently, please let me know. Very, very curious of you guys' thoughts. Like I said, greatly appreciate all the feedback and everybody tuning in each week. This has been a fun project for me, and greatly appreciate everyone tuning in and sticking with the ride. But yeah, that's basically all I got for this week. Those are my top fives. For next week, we might cover defense, depending on how much more news comes out. Keep you guys updated on Twitter. Remember to follow me at HonestFBallTalk. I'll post at the very end of the video so you can get the exact link per se, or get the exact spelling per se. But yeah, thanks again everyone for watching. Greatly appreciate. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all those good things. Greatly supports the channel. Greatly benefits and helps the channel get off the ground. So greatly appreciate all you guys' support and help through all this. And also, of course, your feedback. Everything is greatly appreciated, and I definitely don't take it for granted. I definitely read the feedback and want to try to improve on this as much as possible. So thanks again, guys, and yeah, I think that's everything I got for this week. I'll be back next week to cover some more NFL topics. So of course, this is Thomas Llewellyn, and this is Honest Football Talk, and it's me signing out. Peace out, guys. Take care.